Okay, this is honestly just, I'm praying that this records because it seems that it's not wanting to record. But we are here today to talk about the 20 biggest mistakes that I've made as a creative. Some of these are practical, some of them are technical, some of them are personal, and they're all things that I've learned over the last 5 years of creating. If you hear a bell and random noises in the background, it's my cat eating because she demanded to eat, right now, of course. And what can you do? Okay, number one is thinking that there's only one way to do anything. Number one, the reason I put this one first is because when I was thinking about doing this, I was trying to envision how to make a YouTube video, because this is obviously still very new to me, and some of it felt a little like off, and I was like, I don't know, that's not really me, and then I realized that like it's not cut and dry like that. Those areas where you diverge from what other people are doing is identity and difference and things that make it more authentic and more yourself, and you don't want to lose yourself when you're doing things, so don't get stuck on this vision that you have of how it's supposed to be, how you're supposed to do it, how it's supposed to turn out. Don't do any of that. There are so many ways to do things, like when you do the math wrong but you get the right answer. That's life, baby. That's life. You can do things however, period. You can do things however they make sense to you. Number two, this one's kind of just like I literally just did this. And the funny thing is that I realized, okay, let me just tell you what it is. Basically, I make this mistake of not screwing hanging hardware on the back of my canvases, and you might think like, why would you need to do that? Well, because when you have shit on the front, you can't lay it on the ground or on a surface. You can't leverage any weight to screw into the frame. So that was a realization that I made I had that realization when I was doing it for 12 paintings. And I said to myself, this will never happen again. This will never happen again. And it happened again. I did it with this one. And I told myself, like when I was doing it, hey, like you've done your base layer, you should probably screw the hardware in. Yeah, I'll do it, I told myself. What the fuck? I didn't do it. And I knew I wasn't gonna do it. I just, made myself feel better by pretending I would. And then now here we are. So, lesson, I can't even say learned. I don't know. We'll see how it goes for the next one. So this is just a, number three is about allowing good to be a measure of completion. So this is for like anything, but I first want to say that like good and bad are words that I'm going to use, and I use them like good or bad because they're subjective. They're not, they can be evaluated by either technical means, so like we can say that like that was done incorrectly according to this set of rules that exists, for whatever reason, and then there's like ways of like it being effective to someone who doesn't know the technical realities of what should be done or whatever. So the point is that good is not an effective evaluation. Bad, also pretty shit at evaluating anything. And we all know that like a binary like that, like people like it's a spectrum. You can't just be like, oh, it's good or it's bad. No. It can be whatever it wants to be, I don't know. So that said, if you're allowing good to be a measure of completion, which is what I used to do, it was really tough to finish anything because I didn't know what good meant. And also, like, if you look at something for long enough, it looks weird. So things never felt finished because I felt like they weren't good enough to be finished. And I didn't want to, like, tie my name to a potentially like not good thing and say like, here, it's done. But then I changed my personal rule to it's done when I am happy with it, when I feel it's done, when you know in your gut, like you'll know in your gut when it's time to I don't know, finish. Like there's no other way to say it really, and I wish it was more articulate and more like I wish I could lay it out better for you, but it just can't be about an evaluation of what other people will think or what you think is good or bad, or an evaluation of the quality of it. It's going to be whether or not it feels complete. And that kind of brings us to number 4, which is my mistake of not sharing bad work, or work that I didn't like, work that I was like, oh fuck, that sucks. And it's funny because some of the work that I was like, oh, that gets the check, I'm gonna post that, I hate now. And it's just proof again that like saying something is bad is not in any way like helpful to your ability to share. And a part of like not sharing things that you think is bad is, you know, the shame cycle, believing that, you know, you're opening a door for someone to say that it's bad, and opening a door to maybe self-doubt or whatever it may be that makes us feel kind of shit. By the end of the day, we're also closing ourselves off to constructive criticism, opportunities to improve, and the practice of momentary courage and sharing. So share your bad work, because it might be good later, and share your good work because it might be bad later. And the best part is you can't know, so just share it all. So number 5, I'm going to say this one super quick because every time that I think about this one, I kind of just like spiral. But essentially, like, I just want to first say that we're going to talk about well-being a little bit because creativity and well-being are intertwined, in my opinion. And well-being includes not just like your physical health, mental health, emotional health, but also your social health, your financial health, like spiritual health. There's, you know, there's so many facets of your well-being, and we talk about this, it's including all of those things, right? Well, that said, one of the mistakes that I was making was I was waiting to do things for tons of reasons that were not impacting my well-being. They were, to be honest with you, excuses. And I'm not saying that that's the case for everything. I'm saying that's the case for me. There were things that I was like, oh, you know, I don't know. And usually it was rooted in doubt or a fear that things won't be perfect because I haven't set it up perfectly and I didn't start in a perfect environment. It would take me my entire life, I think. Actually, no, I would die before it happened, before I was able to create something from a creative or from a perfect, you know, start. That said, like, when I talk about well-being and you're saying like, oh, I'm too tired to create, then don't. It's okay. You're allowed to, you know, rest. You're allowed to listen to your body and do these things, but don't feel guilty because then you're not resting, first of all. And actually, let me scrap that because I use guilty in a place where I meant don't feel ashamed, because there's no reason to feel guilty for resting. And there's no reason to feel ashamed either, but it's they're different. And then we're going to take it to number 6, which is pricing things poorly. I love this one. I love to price things poorly because I have no concept of money and I have no concept of how things should be priced. And I've done this both ways. I've overpriced, I've underpriced, I've changed my prices. You know, what can you do? But it's better to overprice than underprice because you don't want to lose money. And I'll quickly just give you like a couple of ways to price things. First and foremost, I'll tell you that when I do digital commissions, I have a flat rate and then I have an hourly. So my flat rate includes 5 hours of drawing, and I think like 3 revisions. I'd have to read my contract, and anything more than that comes with a fee. It's your time, it's your energy, it's your, you know, resources, and costs money. And that's one way to price it, especially when you're doing services like that. If you're doing something, if you're selling a painting, sometimes it can be tough. You can do things like materials plus labor, you know, and then a profit margin. You can do the price per square inch, which is a really popular one. And that one's always surprising to me because it's usually like, so I'll tell you, price per square inch is usually, you price it per square inch. So it's anywhere from like, the average is like $2 to $4. And then you multiply it by the like area of your piece. It can get fucking expensive. The other day I did this. It was crazy. I did this and it was like, I was like, no, too much. And that's fine. And you know, maybe I could have charged that, and I could have, honestly, because I can do whatever I want. But go with what makes sense for you, what makes sense for your audience, and just also be mindful that you do it wrong, you can do it right. It's fine. Nothing's set in stone. Shopify lets you edit it. Etsy lets you edit it. All of them let you edit it. All right, number 7 is also about money. And I want to first say that, like, when I was younger, I was really embarrassed to not have access to the materials that were available to some of my peers. And I felt that the only way to be successful as an artist or a writer was to have access to very expensive materials and things that were out of budget. And we know this is a real issue. Access is a huge issue in the art world, and like as a not just visual art, but all types of art. And with whatever means you have, create. And that's the only thing I can really say. I believed that I needed the most expensive materials, and expensive materials are great. Sometimes they're not. Won't use a blanket statement like that. It might make your work easier to do, but it doesn't make it better. When I was younger, it took me a long time to save up for the Prismacolor pencil crayons because I was using literally Crayola to do like realism, and it's what I could afford. Got it at the dollar store. And I saved up and saved up and saved up, and then I got my Prismacolor, and I was like, ooh, smooth like butter. It was easy. Did I make the same work? Could you tell when you looked at them? Maybe someone who really, really knows. And it was like, yeah, it got me ease, but it didn't get me skill. So it's not what you use, it's how you use it. So it goes. Number 8 is I had decided what I thought a creative looked like. I think this one's tough. It took me a long time to define myself as an artist, as a writer, as a creative, because it's not my job, it's not my vocation. I don't make a living off of creating. I don't make a living off of writing, and there are things that I do, and I was like, oh, you can't be an artist or a writer if you don't get paid for it. And what a mistake capitalism bestowed on me. What a like, you know, evidence of this belief that we are only what capitalism tells us we are. Yeah, so I was believing that like I couldn't be those things because and that by that fucking definition, I still can't be an artist, I still can't be a writer, but I am because I do those things. Doesn't matter if I get paid for it. Sometimes I do get paid for it, and that's fun too, but it's not my primary gig, and it doesn't change a fucking thing. And the important thing about that too is, like, you set the standard of what creativity, what creatives are. If you want to say, because like one of the things that I struggled with, like still like just creeps into my head from time to time, is I have very little like exhibition experience, zero actually, publication experience. You know, these are things that like I don't have, and so it's hard for me to say like, oh, you're an artist and a writer when you don't have these kind of accolades, and you don't need them. It helps in terms of building a network and making a name for yourself in these communities, but it doesn't mean you can't, like, you don't need those things to call yourself a writer or an artist or a creative. These are things that you assign based off of doing, not based on what other people say about it. I think creativity is something that every single person in the world has the capacity to engage with, and we're all creatives in our own right, and whether you define yourself as one or not, that's up to you, and I'll use whatever language you use, and you tell me you're a musician, you're a musician. You tell me you're a dancer, you're a dancer. I'm not going to check your resume, because it doesn't matter. Number 9 is speed does not equal efficiency. This one is like, okay, so we talk about efficiency, we often talk about time, right? We talk about how quickly things take us to do. We talk about, because time is money, duh, so they say. And that's just the world we live in, unfortunately. But what I will say is that I believe, like, okay, well, I want to do this, like, real quick. So I want to cut a corner. And then I end up having to fix it. It takes the same amount of time anyway. So, you know, that speed, that initial speed is not always worth it. It does not necessarily mean that it's going to be more efficient. It means it'll be done faster. But I might have to go back, and it's just like not worth it. I'm really bad for like glue. I love hot glue because it's fast and it dries fast, and if you want something to stick, it's fucking stuck right away. It doesn't hold though. Not the same way, at least, as like a contact cement, which takes millennia to dry. But then you're not redoing it. So, you know, just don't rush through things that need a bit more time. It's okay that they need more time. I know it sucks because it's so much more fun for it to be done, but it's not fun when it falls off. And you're like, my bad. Oops. This one, I'm kind of coming for myself. Like, this one is like, I have this issue where I like don't exist besides this moment. So I think they call it dissociate. For me, I have a hard time envisioning the future because you never can, and whatever you envision is gonna be wrong. And so one of my biggest mistakes that I still make is thinking this is it, that's it, nothing else is coming. You're done. This is it. Get used to it. I love false definitives. I love saying this is going to be the case, and then it never is. Don't think this is it. Always leave space in your life for life to surprise you. It's not even that it closes doors, because it doesn't necessarily, like, life will always find a way, but it makes you fucking miserable thinking you're stuck. You're not stuck. It's not the same thing. There's not much to say beyond that. It's just not true. And I'm guilty of it, and I'm guilty of it in the context of creation and thinking, like, for example, oh, I'm never gonna have another idea. I'll never sell another painting. I'll never do this. I'll never do that. Or, well, I've hit, my peak, or it's leveled out, or it's plateaued and things, whatever. It's like life can still surprise you. Life can still surprise you. And you're just making yourself miserable by telling yourself that it won't, and that you are where you'll be for the rest of your life. Because it's also just like, what evidence do you have of that? Because I have only evidence that contradicts that. Number 11. Okay, we're at number 11, and that is prioritizing other things despite well-being. And we're talking about well-being again, but this time we're talking about creativity as well-being. We know that, engaging with creative hobbies and activities is beneficial for mental health, emotional health, spiritual health, all of these things. We know that it's important. And there have been times in my life where there are other pressing things, and I've chosen to burn myself out with these other pressing things versus, engaging in creativity, no matter how small. I just told myself I didn't have time. And it was a mistake, because it ended up like burning me out really fast, and I wasn't able to even engage with creativity when I had the space for it, or when I felt I had the space for it. Yeah, so it's just really important, like, to me now, to recognize creativity as a method of like rest, and it makes my brain happy to do those things and engage with my life in that way. And it's important for my health and my well-being, this kind of the extension of my well-being that we talked about, to do that. So, grain of salt, obviously, like, if you have something really, really like time contingent, and it's a matter of something that's really, really pressing, like, don't choose art over paying your rent. Okay, number 12 is an interesting one. The reason I say that is because it's about starting over, and I think that we have like this kind of belief that starting over is indicative of like a failure, or that it didn't go the way we wanted it to, or that it was done wrong, and it's not. Sometimes it's just time to pivot, and it's actually like okay to start over rather than like have a shelf filled with half-finished things. And I've gotten, better over time with essentially just like recognizing that some things don't need to be finished, and this goes for a lot of things. And I'm not gonna ask you to like sit there in your shame and trudge through something that doesn't make you happy when you could start over or do something different. This is like true of reading books. Like, if you're reading it and you're like, fuck, I gotta look, put it down, pick up another one, start over. You don't have to finish things. Just period. You don't have to finish things. And like, obviously finishing things is really great, and proud of you if you do those things, but I'm proud of you as well for knowing your limits and knowing when things make sense for you. It's brave to navigate the world in a way that caters to you, and and I'm not saying like act selfishly and like don't finish tasks that other people need you to do, and like it's important that we take care of each other and do those things. But I'm saying, if you don't want to finish the book, don't finish it. It's okay. If you don't want to finish a painting, start over. It's okay. There's no such thing as failure. Just pivots. Just pivots. And this kind of brings us to number 3. This brings us to number 13, and it's forgetting rest. I actually just added this one in like actually 5 minutes ago, because I was thinking about kind of this balance, and sometimes because I do monetize my hobbies, I pressure myself quite a bit to do work for them, and that might not be even like creativity that might just be like monetization, like in terms of like actually just doing admin stuff. And I'll push myself, and because I work other jobs, I have 2 other jobs, it's just sometimes I need to sleep, sometimes I need to do nothing, sometimes I need to watch TV, sit on my couch and do nothing, and it's just as meaningful and impactful as it is doing other things. So don't forget to rest. It actually just like snowballs into you getting sick, or you hurting yourself, or you're burnt out and it's beyond I say beyond repair. I don't mean that. I just mean it requires much more than it would to just take a break now and just like incorporate breaks as often as you can. So this one's a little different. Number 14 is a little different. And I say that because I think we all want to be unique and believe that we are one of a kind, and we are, but we also have a lot of really, really admirable things that unite us. And I think one of the mistakes that I made early on was like this kind of fight for individuality, and it made me feel territorial over the things that I made. It made me feel like only I could make those kinds of things. And first of all, chill is what I would say to myself now. Chill, because what the fuck? And also, like, I am among many, many creators who are, you know, fucking talented and cool, and we have overlaps in things that we do and how our brains work. And, you know, I think it's now at my tender age of 25, I think it's important to unite under the things that make us make sense of each other. And I recognize, like, it's so great. For a long time, especially with my mixed media, I didn't see anything that was made like that, and it was in part isolating. It was cool in the sense that like I was doing something I hadn't seen before, and I still am, but I see people doing similar things. I see people with mixed media doing similar things, and first of all, it's inspiring. And I wouldn't be able to have that inspiration if I was territorial over it. I would say, that's mine. I can't believe it. They're copying me. It's like, you do not own artistic techniques. You do not own, like, don't fucking steal the design. Your work is not essentially in, like, it's not in a vacuum. It's not the only thing of its kind. You are very, very lucky to find your work among very talented people. Yeah, it was a mistake that I was making. I wanted, first of all, I wanted it. I wanted to have this individuality. And second, I believed it to be true. And I believed not only that it was true, I believed that it was important that it was true. It's not. I no longer pride myself in my individuality. Like, I know I'm an individual. I know that I have things that make me unique. I know that the combination of my traits is unique, but I know there's a lot of me that I find in others, and it's one of my favorite things about being alive, is finding that. We're number 15 now. This is amazing. We have made our way through this list, and this is actually happening. We are at number 15. This one is, I hate it. I hate it. It's like the worst thing in the world. And it's about business. And this, you know, if you don't monetize, or you don't own a business, or you know, whatever reason, you're not kind of interested in the business side of it, skip to 16. But number 15 is forgetting the business mind. And I did a small business certificate during COVID online, and I did a full year program, and it was great, and I had fun and whatever, and I learned a lot. And one of the things that I learned was from this book. I had to pull it down because I had to make sure that I got the names right. From the E-Myth. I don't vouch for this book because I don't know anything about it. I read one chapter for school. So if this guy sucks, sorry. Didn't know, didn't research, probably should. But I'll tell you that there's an idea in it. Also, if he's cool, sorry. But there's an idea in it about the 3 people that you need involved in a business for it to be successful. And that is the entrepreneur, the manager, and the entrepreneur, the manager, and the technician. And the technician is obvious. It's the creator. It's the person who's making the works. It's all those things. Entrepreneur is the person who invents the idea of a business and says, this is going to be how I make money. I'm going to do this. And it's the person who like lights that initial spark. And then the manager is who kind of handles the operations. And I feel like it's very, very easy, like I said, to lean into the technician because it's what we love to do. And I'm guilty of it. But to be successful, you need to have that operational mind. You need to think about like how this actually works as a business, how it operates in the kind of wider landscape of art, and how it works in terms of like record keeping, taxes, insurance, permits, licensing, copyright, all of these things are important to consider. You can't just make things if you want to monetize. You can't just make things. And it sucks to say, and I fucking hate it, but it's true. And I think it would be doing you a disservice if I didn't tell you that, especially if you're intending to make some money off of your work. The next one is kind of silly. It's just something that like I make fun of myself for, and it's about storage. Be mindful of storage. Be mindful of digital storage. Be mindful of physical storage. You can never have enough, and also just like don't force yourself to have more if you don't need it. Obviously, like storage is space, regardless of if it's digital or not. It takes up physical land. It occupies space on the planet, whether it's a server or it's your closet. So just be mindful of how you store things, where you store things, and also like my fucking computer constantly needs to have things taken off of it because I make videos, and these videos take up a lot of storage, and I have to delete most of them eventually. And it's more, I don't know, more important for me to make new stuff than it is to keep old ones. And that's not to say that I shouldn't keep, you know, the videos or whatever, that you shouldn't keep your videos or you shouldn't keep the things in your closet or whatever, but use them. Use them. Get them out of there. You know, just be mindful of what your storage situation is, physical or digital, and make sense of it for you and for your creating. Because most things at this point require a decent amount of storage. Every hobby kind of does. Art is such a fucking storage. And I'm very lucky to have an art room, and I'm very lucky to have access to this much storage for art supplies and things of the like. But if I didn't have this, I would have to be much more mindful and conservative with the things that I accumulate and the things I use. And I still try to be. So it's a mistake that I make, is just collecting things that I don't need, collecting things that I don't need, that I want to have. That's how you know I was raised poor. Number 17. So this one I think is really special in the sense that it took me a long time. I don't know how many of you folks actually know this about me, but I was trained, the way I learned art was through realism. I learned about replication and like what I see is what I create. I don't have like formal training. I learned like in high school, and that's it. And like, taught myself based off of whatever else I needed to learn. And it was about, there's a lot of rules with realism, a lot of rules. And one of the rules one of my art teachers told me was from a famous painter, couldn't tell you who, that said you can't use true black in paintings because true black doesn't exist in nature, and it's either really, really dark blue or really, really dark purple or really dark red. Whatever. Fuck it. I don't care now. It's a rule that I don't follow. It's something that like I actually don't really have a lot of black in my pieces to begin with anyways, but if I do, I do, and I don't worry about that kind of thing. And the reason I say that is because the areas where you diverge from the norm, where you stray from the norm, is the areas, or are the areas that define individual style. So like you invent the rules for the most part in terms of like really, really executing these kinds of things, and breaking the rules is just your own kind of little spin on it. So don't worry about breaking, or don't worry about adhering to a bunch of rules. There's no point. Unless your goal is to follow them, then do what you want. Number 18 is setting up camp in the comfort zone. So I love the comfort zone. We all do. We love being where we are and knowing what we know and expecting what can be expected. We don't like unknowns. It's scary. And this can be about like sharing things online. This can be about trying new things. This can be about criticism. This can be about a number of things. Just don't set yourself up to never learn and never grow, because it's not fun. It's more fun to try new things, and I don't know, it's not worth it to spend your life with comfort. I have been far more rewarded for stepping outside the comfort zone than I have for staying in it. 19, we're getting there, guys. 19 is I used to view challenges that presented themselves to me as a consequence of my poor decisions. And this, ladies and gentlemen, It's Catholic guilt. And it's the idea that like essentially like A led to B led to C. So it's like I did this, therefore this bad thing happened to me, and now I have to deal with this, and I'm dealing with this challenge, and it sucks, and it's blah, 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 blah. And the way this applies into creativity is that it's like I felt like areas where I was rejected or I was at a loss, it was my fault, and it was a result of my bad decisions. We don't like that word anymore. Challenges are just there to challenge you. I am not here to invent the intentions of the universe or to decide what I think it means. All I will say is that challenges will occur regardless of if you make poor decisions, and you define what a poor decision is anyways. As long as you're not hurting people, it's probably not that big of a deal. And these decisions carry this kind of like punitive layer to them. Like there's no reason to view a challenge as like a consequence or a punishment for behavior that you're not proud of. When you have a behavior that you're not proud of, you pivot, you change, you don't do it again, but you don't get punished. I don't believe that that's how the universe works. And I think that like it's really easy to do that because Catholicism loves shame. At least my corner of Catholicism did. And I don't think that's the case. So don't allow you to, face these kind of like, especially as a creative, like rejection and things like that. It's not because you did shit. It's because it's competitive. And if you get rejected, it's because there's a million people also vying for the same thing. And it's nothing to do with you being better or worse or anything like that, because it's all subjective anyways. And you try again. And, if you want to look at your work and be like, how can I improve? Absolutely do that. But don't say that this is dog shit and that's why I have this bad thing happen to me. Don't allocate value. We are not evaluators in that way. So, we've made it to number 20. Number 20, welcome. We are talking about waiting for perfection. And this is something that I love to do because I used to be a perfectionist and I was very, very lucky to experience an epiphany very young that perfection does not exist and that there's no point. It was really damaging to my ability to begin things that I wanted to begin. I believed that the circumstances had to be perfect. I believed that things had to look a certain way and I had to show up a certain way and these things had to be in a line and it's the only way they could do it. Excuse. It was an excuse. For me, at least. It was an excuse to not do things because I felt that at least then I could blame the circumstances and not, God forbid, play any role in it. And it's fine. If you play a role in it, try again. Start, learn, try again. If you haven't gotten that from this video, I'll say it again, but it's just this perfection is such a limiting belief and we know it to be that way and it's never going to happen, and humans just invented utopian mindsets because of some internalized shame of their own imperfection. It's like, no, we are okay being imperfect and we can do things in an imperfect world because it's the only place we can do things, and we will do them imperfectly. And, who cares? We do what we do. We create when we create, and the world is all the better for it. And maybe we're a little bit closer to that perfection, but don't wait for it to show up, because you'll be waiting forever. So, if you can't tell, I'm fucking tired. It's a long video. Damn, guys, I've been talking to you for like an hour. Goodbye.